Hello everyone, huge news just dropped. Evernorth, backed by Ripple, is now sitting on $1 billion in XRP tokens. Crazy stuff. So what does this actually mean for everyone else in the market? That's what we're diving into today. Oh, and Jack McDonald just shared some pretty interesting details about Securitize that you need to hear. But that's not even everything. There's also this massive development with 100 million ledgers heading to the XRPL. And yeah, we've got fresh ETF news too. So stick around because we're unpacking all of this right now. Let's kick things off with what Coin Bureau reported. Ripple-backed Evernorth just bought over $1 billion in XRP for its upcoming XRP treasury launch. Here's the breakdown. Evernorth, a Ripple-backed company, has made headlines by accumulating over $1 billion worth of XRP, basically 338.7 million tokens, as a part of its treasury initiative ahead of its planned Nasdaq listing. This marks one of the most significant institutional buys in XRP's history, with Evernorth quickly establishing itself as one of the largest institutional holders of the assets. Why is this significant for XRP? Evernorth's purchase is unprecedented for an altcoin outside of Ethereum and Solana and signals a strong shift in institutional settlement towards XRP. The move is expected to dampen retail-driven volatility and absorbing up to 2% of XRP's liquid supply within a year, potentially reinforcing price stability in depth. Look, we need more liquidity flowing in, right? And this is exactly how we get it. Here's what I think. This is going to encourage, maybe encourage is better than pressure, but it's going to motivate other big institutional players to start building their own XRP treasuries. Think about it. More companies jump in, more liquidity comes with them, more XRP gets pulled off exchanges, and boom, less supply sitting around. You already know what happens when supply drops. Prices climb up. This initiative combines elements of traditional corporate treasuries within blockchain strategies, including DeFi yield generation, lending, and liquidity provisioning. This approach could help grow XRP per share for equity holders and support long-term ecosystem growth. Look at this. They mention institutional adoption and the ripple effect. Evernorth's treasury vehicle will be traded under the ticker XRP and giving public investors direct regulated exposure to XRP through equity markets. The firm is supported by Ripple and prominent entities like SBI Holdings, Pantera Capital, Kraken, and of course, Ripple co-founder Chris Larsen. The market sees this as a supply shock event, with Evernorth establishing new standards for institutional asset accumulation and encouraging other firms to view XRP as a strategic yield-generating asset. All right, so here's the thing. When Ripple and Evernorth actually pull this off and show everyone it works, you better believe the rest of the industry is going to jump on board fast. And that's when things get interesting, because suddenly, there's going to be this massive rush to grab up everything that's still available on the open market. That's exactly what we've all been sitting here waiting for, right? That big institutional adoption moment. Okay, so Jack McDonald actually posted something about this. Let me show you what's happening. Very exciting news from Carlos Domingo and Team Securitize. They're announcing their IPO plans. We need to take a closer look at this.
I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets.
Tokenization is a freight train. It can't be stopped. Eventually, it'll eat the whole global financial system.
Tokenization is a $400 trillion opportunity.
Can you believe how wild this moment is? Like, seriously, think about it. We actually have the chance to understand and get in on what's coming for the entire financial system. This has literally never happened before in human history. We've never been able to own part of the new financial infrastructure like this. But right now, everything's shifting. This is power back to regular people, finally leveling that playing field. Let's do this. I'm pumped about this. And check it out, Chad Steingraber just dropped this. Securitize to become a public company with an IPO valuation of $1.25 billion. This marks the first integration of RLUSD into Securitize's platform, with additional use cases and assets plans. Securitize is also integrating with the XRP ledger to expand access and bring new utility to the XRP ecosystem. Okay, this is the stuff that fires me up. Brand new ways to use it. But check this out. There's probably a ton of applications we haven't even thought of yet. You know what I mean? People are out there right now cooking up completely fresh ideas for XRP. The EVM chain launch has me so hyped because of all the building that's about to explode. Here's what's wild. Take every single project that's constructing something on the XRP ledger at this moment. Each one is going to consume more and more XRP as they grow. We're potentially facing a supply crunch already. So where's all that XRP going to come from? It won't be there. Now picture this scenario 3 to 5 years out. Imagine 100 million newcomers joining crypto, maybe 200 million, could be 500 million brand new participants jumping in. What are they going to do? They'll be scrambling like crazy trying to buy Solana and XRP and Ethereum, totally unaware that we've been holding this entire journey. That's going to give us serious flexibility later. Whether your exit strategy involves selling, or maybe you want to use your XRP as collateral for borrowing, whatever approach you've mapped out personally, all of that becomes way more achievable. Partnering with Ripple to integrate RLUSD into our tokenized infrastructure is a major step forward in automating liquidity for tokenized assets, said Carlos Domingo, co-founder and CEO of Securitize. Uphold will launch a digital asset loan or digital asset loan starting in December in Florida first. Uphold keeps popping up in headlines lately, and honestly, it's pretty wild to watch. When you look at exchanges operating in America, they're literally one of the top champions for XRP on the entire planet. What they're building heading into 2026 has me genuinely stoked. I'm going to keep you in the loop on every single partnership and development that drops. Now, this story comes straight from Business Insider. And yeah, of course, it's coming out of the San Francisco Bay Area. Where else would it be from? Uphold opens up easier access. The two Exactly protocol customers can earn yield and borrow against their digital assets. Loans can be spent using a Visa credit card. Digital assets supported by the service include XRP, ETH, USDC, and Bitcoin. Look, here's the thing. Not everyone wants to dump their digital assets, right? So what's the solution? You need options like this where you can actually borrow against your digital assets and then take that cash to do whatever it is you're planning in your life. Uphold is smoothing out those on and off ramps to make this whole thing possible. Love to see it. Okay, let's go. Countdown to 100 million ledgers on the XRP ledger. Folks, we are so close right now to hitting 100 million ledgers. I will absolutely keep you in the loop the moment we break through that milestone. JPMorgan says upcoming altcoin ETFs could draw $14 billion in flows. The bank sees XRP ETFs as $8 billion of the $14 billion. This is where it gets really exciting. Look, you've got Evernorth jumping in with institutional treasury money, right? Then there's the whole ETF route too. Here's the thing. No matter which way this plays out, we're talking billions of dollars flooding in. And that's just short term. You've got to wrap your head around that, right? Everyone's obsessed with what's the price today, what's the price tomorrow. Me? I honestly don't care about today's price or tomorrow's price. My focus? 2 to 5 years out. That's the window I'm locked into. I'm barely glancing at daily charts because honestly, it's all about where we land at the end, the final outcome. During this stretch, I'm accumulating every bit I can get my hands on and throwing everything I've got at building something real for this community. And look, I need to take a second here because the love you all pour into this channel absolutely blows my mind. Every view, every comment, every share on this content and video matters. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now check this out. BlackRock's Larry Fink comes out saying, owning crypto assets or gold is a hedge against currency debasement. Funny timing because I literally just released this killer video unpacking the whole currency debasement situation over the weekend. Miss it? Go pull it up right now.
If you believe that countries are going to continue to debase their currency, if you believe that there's going to be global rise of insecurity, owning crypto assets or gold are assets of fear. You own these assets because you're frightened of the debasement of your assets. You're worried about your financial security. You're worried about your physical security, and between crypto assets and gold, they believe, there's a strong belief that is a good hedge against optimism.
Okay. Jamie, you were a little.
There's this meeting happening, yeah? It's the Board of Changemen, Economics, Georgianomics. Get this, they only do this gathering once a year. Now, picture this. Some of the richest folks on the planet and people running the biggest financial institutions you can think of all show up to hear what the top leaders and thought leaders in economics have to say. And here's the kicker. They're straight up telling you they're nervous. Everyday people like customers are nervous. You're nervous. I'm nervous. Why? Because central banks keep debasing our currency. They're literally just printing, spending money like there's no tomorrow. It just goes on forever. Here's the thing about how we push back against this. If we just sit there with our cash in our bank account while they keep running those printers, guess what happens? Our money loses its buying power bit by bit, and yep, they're debasing the currency. So here's how we fight back against that. People use strategies like gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. That's exactly why I've got a ton of my wealth parked in the crypto space, because honestly, I'm convinced this is where technology and financial innovation are headed. And you know what? When you've got someone like Larry Fink basically confirming what we've been saying all along, man, it really hits different. All right, so get into this. Ripple is 100. It is Ripple's 120-day review for its national banking license ends in 2 days. Here's what we understand. Typically, the minimum time frame is 120 days once you submit the application. Sometimes it drags out to 9 months even. But most of the time, around that 120-day mark, we start getting hints about where things might be heading. So what is to expect after 120 days? The 120-day timeline is a procedural benchmark used by the OCC. But while some OCC decisions occur within this window, the actual approval or rejection often takes 12 to 18 months. Okay, so we might be looking at a pretty long wait here. Now, I wouldn't throw the word rush around, that might not fit, but here's what's happening. There's real momentum building to stand up this infrastructure and hand these companies their national bank charters so they can snag a FedMaster account and finally kick this whole thing into gear. Here's where it gets interesting. Picture someone from the Trump administration showing up at the OCC saying, listen, can we accelerate this thing and ditch the 12 to 18-month timeline? You better believe that when I catch wind of anything, any update at all, I'm coming straight here to share it with you. What we know right now is the firm has zero confirmation that anyone will actually announce a definitive yes or no publicly. All right, I wanted to break down something else. What actually happens for Ripple and XRP when that national banking license finally comes through? Because I'm seeing that question everywhere from you guys. If Ripple secures a U.S. national banking license, this shift would be transformative for both Ripple and the utility value proposition around XRP. Ripple would be a federally chartered trust bank, allowing it to directly custody digital assets, offer institutional settlement, and provide fiduciary services nationwide without the patchwork of state-level restrictions that limit most crypto firms today. Ripple would gain direct access to FedWire and FedNow payment rails, unlocking real-time settlement and capabilities using blockchain alongside digital asset systems. Okay, so this could be the moment we've all been watching for, the thing that actually gets the Federal Reserve to start using XRP. I mean, think about it for a second. Here's what we know. FedNow isn't built on blockchain. It's completely centralized. The Fed runs it, the Fed controls the settlement, banks plug into the Fed, and boom, instant settlement for about 20 cents. Pretty straightforward system. But here's where it gets interesting. The Trump administration has been actively pushing for blockchain rails, right? So if they want to replace FedNow, and that's a big if, they're going to need blockchain infrastructure. And who's the obvious choice there? Ripple. Look at it this way. We're talking about a US payment system. The government isn't going to hand that over to some overseas company. They're going to pick a US-based company, and Ripple fits that bill perfectly. So yeah, this could be what we've been waiting for. The pieces are starting to line up. Let's be real here. The government isn't exactly known for being tech innovators. They can't just go out and recruit the best and brightest minds from around the globe. Why? Because a government salary is, well, a government salary. Ripple, on the other hand, they can throw serious money at top-tier talent. They can build elite teams to design cutting-edge systems. The compensation just isn't in the same league. So this makes me think, what's the actual plan here? And how much of that plan revolves around Ripple and XRP? Because there's a bigger picture forming. Getting a national banking license would massively elevate Ripple's legitimacy with institutional partners. We're talking about the kind of credibility that lets them scale up for tokenized asset offerings. That's huge. And here's the thing, right now, Ripple probably isn't struggling to get meetings with major institutions. They're already in the room with some of the biggest players. But a national banking license? That takes it to a whole different level. That's not just getting in the door, that's sitting at the head of the table. BlackRock's already in the game, VanEck's doing their thing. We've got all these major players making moves. But what we're looking at now? Completely different ballgame. This could blow the doors wide open for Ripple. Here's my take. Honestly, I don't think anything's really stopping them right now anyway. But you know how it is, right? There's always going to be people saying XRP doesn't actually do anything useful. Always going to be folks claiming Ripple's just another company overpromising and underdelivering. And maybe, just maybe, this is what finally gets them to pipe down with all that negativity. Could be the wake-up call some people need. We'll see how it plays out. But let's talk about what this actually does for XRP. You've got institutions finally coming in for real. The network gets used more, which means more actual utility happening. Real influence in how things move. And the market impact? That's where things get interesting. There's just a ton of exciting developments happening all at once. And get this, Oracle's now throwing their hat in the ring too. Yeah, they're making moves. Wild times. Oracle launches digital assets data nexus platform for banks to build tokenized assets, stablecoins, and CBDCs. Now here's where it gets tricky though. These systems Oracle's building, they're private. And that's kind of a problem because when you lock everything behind private walls, you miss out on something huge, liquidity. Think about it. You've got the XRP ledger out there, Solana's doing its thing, Ethereum's got massive liquidity flowing through it. All that activity, all those transactions happening in the open, that's what creates real depth in the market. So the big question becomes, how's this going to shake out? Who's actually going to jump on board and start using Oracle's platform? Time will tell on that one. Oh, and here's something worth pointing out. Ripple's making money without having to sell XRP anymore. I wanted to throw that in here because people forget about this. It's actually a pretty big deal when you think about their business model. Ripple generates revenue through XRP-related activities, enterprise software licensing, and transaction fees from its global RippleNet infrastructure. RippleNet participates pay usage-based fees tied to transaction volume, creating a scalable, recurring revenue stream beyond network operations. Ripple earns returns from strategic investments in blockchain and fintech ventures, and through its line of credit product, which provides on-demand liquidity for cross-border payments. These initiatives diversify Ripple's revenue base beyond XRP sales, building a more resilient business model aligned with traditional financial institutions entering the digital assets bank. So what do you think? Are you feeling bullish on Ripple and XRP right now? Does this Oracle news hit different for you? Or are you still on the fence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I actually read through them, so let me know where your head's at. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Seriously, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. You could be anywhere else on the internet right now, but you're here, and that means a lot. That was me tipping my invisible hat to you, by the way. Hopefully you've got a solid week ahead. Let's make some moves out there.